So is it a bit like, for an example, you're seeing it as there's the confidence in making the choice, is this something we should do and shouldn't do? That confidence is settled where you're talking about it now. This is something they have to do. Is it then, is this something we should do right now because what happens if, what happens that? Is that the kind of uncertainty that you're seeing?
And I think it's like, I don't want to be faced with having to make the change.
Yeah.
So what you need to do is you need to make the change as painless as possible. Mm-hmm. Now, it could be change. It could be flipping from another to you. It could be something new, and with new comes uncharted. Yeah. With new comes with unknown.
And we've got enough uncharted and enough unknown
exactly.
in our lives.
So
right
I think what you need to do is create a space where they are comfortable. So again, break it down. Don't take everything at once. Take this little bit first. Let's see how we get on with that. Small steps.
Mm-hmm. So it's almost like, for an example, that we can miss that actually there's a human being trying to make this decision. And even, let's say it was a big company, yeah, and they know that this is the right decision to make, but the uncertainty around them goes, should I make this decision now? Because I'm not certain of my role. Yeah. What happens if this relationship doesn't work as I think?
It's on me.
And the company's trying to restructure because, they've had a rough 2 years.
It's easier not to make a decision and not put myself into that place.
Yeah.
So again, break it down into small bite-sized pieces. Take a little bit. Let's start here. Let's see how we get on with this. Let's see if we get on. I can't emphasize how important that is right now. This is about us having a relationship. Mm-hmm. This is about you having confidence in me, feeling comfortable that I'm the right person to deal with, that we are going to deliver.
And this is something we do pretty much in everything we do, is we give people a bite-sized trial, 3-month trial. Come and try something for 3 months. If it works for you, great. If it doesn't, you're not tying yourself into multi-year contracts or anything. But it's something that I think businesses are afraid to do because what happens if? But actually giving people that kind of taster, if your only way to get a client is to lock them down for 12 months.
Yeah, nobody wants that. Yeah, you're not going to get it.
If, for an example, if we onboard a client and the relationship's just not working, it's better that fails quickly. Because could you imagine trying to service that client for a year where basically you're just not getting on? Yeah. We see it like, you can see the allure of the 12-month contract and the certainty that brings. But actually that could be incredibly disruptive and incredibly damaging to your relationship with a client. Whereas if you come in for 3 months and you go, how are we feeling? Did it work? Did it not work?
Or conversely, what do we need to tweak? What do we need to change? Because if you stick someone in 12 months, they feel like they've got to kind of run with it. You feel like it would be good if they did. Actually, if you do it for 3 months, it's kind of like, well, elements of this work for us, but elements of that didn't work for us. Well, what can we change about that? What's going to suit you? Do we need to pare back, or do we actually need to do more of this?
Yeah.
And I think particularly with what we do on LinkedIn, one of the reasons I was attracted to it was I recognised that the market had moved on. It's really hard to outreach to potential clients now if all you're doing is cold calling. Yes, you can go to exhibitions. Yes, you can work a network, but fundamentally what you're doing is cold outreach. Mm. And fundamentally, particularly in the world I came from, in the financial markets, that was done over the telephone. I knew there had to be a better way, and every time we tried something, it failed. Mm-hmm. But we got to here, and the company that I was working with prior to joining Maverrik, we had that discussion. There's got to be a better way to do this, and it jumps out at you. It's like, well, it has to be LinkedIn. 900 million people on a B2B platform.
So
it's taking that leap. I know it should work. I want it to work, but what if it doesn't?
Mm-hmm. So thinking about that in terms of cold outreach and your experience in terms of the volume that you have to do to get through to the right person, even if you're a good, skilled cold caller, there's a percentage of people you just can't get to. And then LinkedIn, right? And I just want to compare this and get your take on it. One of the things I've seen, and maybe you can elaborate on this if you might disagree with me, is there's something that feels almost productive about making calls, even if you don't get through to anybody. Whereas on LinkedIn, engaging with a decision maker can feel like, is this actually going anywhere? And I want to be honest with that for anybody watching, listening to this, is there is that feeling of, at least in the early days, of it doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
Like if I was sending, dopamine.
Yeah.
If I'm sending a message,
if you're in an active office.
Yeah. If I'm sending an email and I send an email, I get no reply. I've sent an email.
Yeah, there's no hit. Well, also, but the other thing as well is you have no response. So what your brain wants is it wants a response. If you're anything like me, I'll send an email and it hasn't replied because I need that response. Even if it's not for me, okay, move on. But if it's a good response, I get my fix. Now, the other thing that happens there is that if we see, by using LinkedIn and what we do, I don't think you get any more. Mm-hmm. So that's the important thing. And I think what people sometimes come to us and they go, if I make 100 phone calls and I get, again, nobody makes 100 decent phone calls in a day. It's an absolute myth. If you're making 100 phone calls a day, if you think about the maths, you haven't spoken to anybody. You need to speak to somebody for a good 5 minutes to make it worthwhile. So do the maths, right? So let's say you make 40 phone calls in a day and you speak to 10 people and they are good conversations. And out of those conversations, 6 of those are interested. So, you're kind of working to about a 5% ratio there. You're kind of like 6.
I think your numbers are quite good there, though, for most people. I think most people's numbers wouldn't be that good.
Right, okay. Well, we used to want to have 5 good conversations a day. So let's not worry about how many calls it takes to do that. It might take me 100 calls. It might take me 20 calls. It might take that guy.
But how many hours would you spend all day doing that, pretty much?
In the early days when I was young, there was nothing else to do. Before computers came around and I could click away and look and all the rest of it, I literally had a telephone directory and we were ringing numbers. So yes, we were making 100 calls, but we were probably still only having 20 conversations. And those conversations, if they're 10 minutes long, kind of 4 hours, 3.5 hours on the phone. That's where we're up to. Now, what we do on LinkedIn doesn't get me any more than 5 prospects. But what it means is all the people that went, no, not for me, no, not for me, no, not for me. On LinkedIn, they haven't said that.
Yeah, there's no no.
There's no no. So I think, and this is where we often have discussion about does cold call still work? I don't think cold call, but let's use another word, warm call.
Yeah.
I'm going to still make some of those calls, particularly if I've got a mobile number properly, or they have been introduced to me, or someone has suggested I talk to them. I'll make those calls. So if I make 100 calls and 10 of them, like that, there's 90 people that have either said what we just said. Listen, it's not for me. No, I'm too busy. Wrong day. Bad mood. Cat just threw up. I don't want to talk. Or what's happening at the moment is I work from home. I can't even get hold of them. So that's the other thing that's going on right now is that people aren't even in an office on a landline anymore. So cold calling actually physically can't work. But with LinkedIn, the way that you're reaching out to them, if they're on the platform, if they're in the room, means that you can take a process and warm them up without them, so to speak, knowing they're being warmed up. And I don't mean that by disingenuous. If I ring you up and say, do you want what I've got? And you say, no, you've been warmed up. Ask the question and you said no. But if I start interacting with you on LinkedIn and I start building that relationship, I haven't actually sold you anything yet. I'm just building a relationship. So whilst you don't get any more yeses in the same time frame, you build up a much stronger network of potential connections.
And I don't think there's a problem with a warm call. I don't do them. Yeah, I've made that choice to not do calls. But from my point of view, I can see why people would want to do that. But at least build a relationship so that and you've done it, and you've done our 7-step process, engaged with people, built the relationships, not in one day, over a period of time, because that's what a lot of people do. It's like, let's go in for the kill, and their version of warming somebody up is they've sent them a thank you message and then called them.
Yeah.
That's not what we're talking about. But over a period, you've built a little bit of a relationship. Maybe you've had a few interactions on a post or something like that. Then you ring them up and say, hi, it's Simon from Maverrik. We've been talking on LinkedIn, or we had that comment on LinkedIn the other day. Oh, hi, Simon. And you've got opportunities with people that way, which I don't see the same as just dialing unqualified.
But what you need to do is, see, I think what you need to do now is you need to make yourself available. So you need to be available to the prospects. And what I mean by available is they need to know that you do what you do and you're able to do it for them. And the reason is you have no idea why someone chooses to buy at the time they do. You have no idea. It doesn't matter what you think. And I've proven this to myself very recently. I had a video call with a company. For me, it might have been mood, it might have been time of day, it might have been the way I woke up. I felt like it was a dreadful call. Yeah. A really bad call. But I followed it through. I even kind of followed up with, I'd like to have another call with you. And they said, why? And I said, well, it just felt like I didn't perhaps explain some of the elements as thoroughly as I could have done, which was my code for saying I was rubbish. And then a week later, they come back and say, we'd like to buy.
Yeah. I remember this because you were surprised by it.
Okay, that's great. But what I've done there is I've made myself available. Now, you take another lead that I've got. I haven't spoken to the person. But I know, because a friend of mine works there, that they absolutely are struggling with cold calling right now. Mm-hmm. They're finding all the problems that I found is that people aren't available, they're not at their desks, they're at home 3 days a week, they can't reach them, they're not in the mood, they don't want to do it. And they're desperately looking for another way. And I know who the decision maker is, and I've reached out to him and using our 7 steps on LinkedIn, and I've step 1, step 2, step 3, and he's engaged, and he's engaged, and he's engaged. And I've got to the last point, and I said, listen, we've been having a few chats. It might be good to have a meeting and just find out a bit more about what you do. And he hasn't responded. That's fine, because he hasn't gone, no, I don't want what you've got. He just hasn't responded at the time I thought he would. Hot. I know he needs what we've got because someone's given me the in. But he hasn't responded. Now, I don't know why that is. Something might have happened. An illness. His wife might have got COVID and he's had to do the school run for 10 days. But I haven't done it.
Did you do a message?
Yeah, I did a message.
So equally, and I found myself doing this, is sometimes I'll get a message from somebody and I think, I must reply to that. And I open it and then go, walk away, do something else, don't even remember I had the message.
Absolutely.
So it could be just a case.
And a guy I used to work with made a very good comment to me once, and it was around this. He wasn't talking about me, but he made the comment. He said, just because I don't reply doesn't mean I don't want to do business with you. It just means I'm not ready yet. Mm-hmm. Now, I know you absolutely need what I've got. Your revenue's struggling, you need what I've got. But there are other things going on. Difficulty is if I've cold called you and I've said, do you want what I've got? And they say, I'm not. They don't say I'm not ready yet, but call me in 3 months. They go, no, I don't. I'm sorry, I'm really busy.
Yeah, it's over.
It's over.
Same with cold email.
And it's not over because I've been rude, and it's not over because they've been rude. It's over because there's some kind of psychology that goes on that they don't want to come back to it, and I'm a bit scared to ring them again, and I don't really fancy it because it's not, cold callers want to make nice calls. End of story. No, I know that might not be very nice. Whereas if we're on LinkedIn, I can leave that. He hasn't responded to the message. I might go back to him next week again, and he might go, oh, yes, Simon, exactly like you said.
But there's also the posts that LinkedIn can keep you in front of. But I think where people go wrong with stuff when people don't respond is, let's just do, I'm just following up and just chasing people I know there's tactics but I just think, please, stop. I didn't respond the first time. You're sending me the follow-up because you've tracked my open.
God, that's the worst one. 4 of them. And the 5th one is, one last chance. I don't want you to feel like I'm pestering you, but I'm just going to go one time again because you might be too busy. And I sometimes feel like, no, I don't want what you've got. Mm-hmm. Don't keep coming back to me assuming that I've missed you.
Yeah. So, I mean, even...
It's immature sales techniques.
Well, it's basically...
And I don't mean age. I mean
all of it's automated.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Well, it's all automated. So you end up with... I do emails, right? And I literally go, I'll write an email to a person so I know who I'm writing to. I've looked at their website. I've looked at all this stuff and I go, right, I'm going to go and reach out to them because I've done my research. I'll send one email. I'll engage with them on LinkedIn, right? If I don't get the response, I'll think, right, they're not in the space. They didn't see it. I don't want to burn that because as soon as they say, remove me from your mailing list, which they weren't on, by the way, but I'm not interested, or please don't contact me, this is not for me, there's this GDPR issue now of them saying no. And I had a client, major enterprise, and you know what it is, their CRM is full of people saying do not contact. Yeah. Now, if you want to break the law, you can just go, sod it, I'm going to do it anyway and risk the fines. But actually, once you've said, no, I'm not interested, your legitimate interest under the law to actually communicate with them is gone.
I've had it where I've said, I'm not interested. But what I actually mean to say, but I don't, is I'm too busy right now. And I've come off the call going, that's foolish, really, because it might be worth me looking at that. But I've done it now. He's not calling again.
Yeah.
And so the point I'm making there is that you'll call people up. They'll say, I'm not interested. And they don't actually mean it. They just mean right now, go away. And that, for example, we're in Plymouth today, our office in London. I'm driving back to London this afternoon, 4 hours on the motorway, listening to my music, whatever. My daughter rings, no problem, we'll be chatting to her. But if I get a cold call then, I'm not talking to them in the car, not because I'm in the car and I've got time, because I'm driving and I don't want to have that, I don't have that thinking power going on, right? So they're going to get, listen, I'm sorry, I'm driving, I'm not really interested, or I might not use the word interested, I'm driving, not for now. Now, if they're working from a call sheet, my number's now lost.
Yeah.
But if they'd sent me, if they'd engaged with me another way, if they'd started to build a relationship.
It's almost like, I'm messing with numbers here. I've got 100 people, I've got to convert something.
Yeah.
Versus, I've got these 10 people that I really think we could add value to.
Yeah.
Let me invest my time in those 10 people.
Yeah.
Or it might be the same 100 people, but I'm gonna do the speedy version to find the need quickly, find what bites, or do I invest the time in the right people?
And let's be honest, right? This version over here, I'm going to do the speedy version. I've got 100 calls. Why are they doing that? It's because someone's looking over their shoulder paying their wages. And they want to feel like they've got a productive member of staff, and they want to get up, like you said, at the end of the day from their desk and go, that was a good day today. Mm-hmm. I deserve that drink I'm going to have tonight. I've expended some energy. The dopamine's running through me, and off I go. If you ask an entrepreneur, someone running their own business who doesn't have somebody looking over the shoulder paying their wages, they may well do the same thing, but for a different set of motivators. So they'll do it in a different way. They're not going to plow through the 100 leads they've got because they know full well that they're going to burn along the way. They're going to do exactly what you said. They're going to still have the same activity level because they've got a higher rate of urgency because no one's paying their wages. But they're going to think, right, out of these 100, how can I do these 10? What's going to be the most beneficial way? Because I don't want to burn the opportunity, because I know I've done my research. These are 100 good opportunities for me. Whereas if you go into any sales floor, I think right now, while cold calling is a predominant aspect of what they do, you will find members of staff people pleasing their boss more than how is the best opportunity. And if you can create an environment where the staff are encouraged to go, what's the best medium for this person? I don't have a direct line. Looking at the kind of company they are, they're in fintech, let's say, they're probably going to have adopted a hybrid working environment. So the chances have now diminished by triple of me getting hold of that person on that phone number that I've got. Is there a better way to reach? Let's say if they're on LinkedIn. Crikey, he's on LinkedIn, she's on LinkedIn quite regularly, and they're posting. Let's perhaps interact with some of that stuff. Let's try and build a relationship. I can do that.
But where they go wrong is they basically take their cold calling activity, their speed dialing,
into that environment.
Environment. It's like,
hello. I'm here.
Somebody just suddenly appears from nowhere. You get a like and a comment, and the next minute they're in your inbox going for it. And it's like,
well, the best one is when people approach us about what we do. I had one this morning. They are Europe's leading LinkedIn marketing agency, and can we have a call? And I'm like, you haven't even read my profile. This is just a bot.
They're so good at LinkedIn marketing. They target LinkedIn marketing agencies and
with a
service providers. With a bot.
That's how good they are. So I think in 2022, what you've got to do, I hate that you've got to be cleverer, but the world has changed. people's response mechanisms have changed. People's needs have changed. The way, let's face it, people are on, the situation of the pandemic where every business suffered. No, they didn't. Loads of business thrived. People are much more aware of social media and the use of it now. People are much happier to sit on a video call. People are doing networking. I do certain networking events. They're not going back to physical because the pain point was, I've got to get on the train and go up at 6 o'clock at night and stand around in a room full of people I don't know and have a drink I don't want and eat something I don't want when I'd rather be at home with my kids because I'm of that age, right? When I was younger, I used to love going to them because it was just an excuse to go out on the town afterwards, but now I don't. So a lot of these networking events are remaining virtual. So people know there's an awful, we've made available to us an awful lot more ways of engaging with people.
And coming back to that numbers thing, just before we wrap up, I often say to people, so okay, you want to kind of cold outreach to these 100 people or these 500 people, and you want to do it quickly. Do you think if you do it in a more researched way, the conversion of those 500 will be higher? Oh yeah, they agree with that. But then kind of this thing flips in their head of like, no, let's just do it anyway. They just want to get to a result. Any result. Doesn't matter how many really, in one sense, it's just a result. And because the ROI of it is so good, if you're selling a 50 grand thing and you send 500 emails and get two 50 grand things, you go, look, we sent 500 emails, 500 tiny emails, but we made 100 grand. No brainer. What happens when you try to do that again? How many of those 500 have you got left to go again with?
Yeah.
Actually, no, now it's like 434 because 60, 17, whatever the number is, 68 of them or whatever have said, do not contact me again. Let's go again. Oh, you might get another one.
Yeah.
But eventually what happens is you end up with, you've burnt like 25% of that list in people saying, do not contact me. Yeah. And it doesn't matter whether you could have just caught them on a bad day. You could have just done whatever. It could have been the message was wrong. It could have been whatever reason it was. But basically, you're eliminating people who may have a need that you can no longer talk to because of the way the world works on data.
And like you said, you haven't done your research properly. You've got to research the people that you want to talk to. Do they have a space in their business for what you do? Now, the biggest one at the moment, this is just really relevant to me, is like renewable energy or solar energy. I want to get solar power on my roof. In my view, why wouldn't anyone want to get solar power on the roof? Electricity costs are going through the roof. Why wouldn't anyone want to do it? So there's an argument to say everyone's a lead. Mm-hmm. Everyone who owns a house is a lead right now. But that doesn't mean that everyone has the same pain points. So when I went to the solar power company and I said, come round to my house and let's have a look. Yep, 14 nice panels up on my roof. That's fine. That wasn't my pain point. Battery packs have to go on the side of the building, and that's a bit of a pain. Wasn't my pain point. When the chap sat me down and said, can we have a copy of your electricity bill? And got my copy of your electricity bill and said, what is your biggest electrical usage in this house? Straight away, the tumble dryer. My wife puts that tumble dryer on 5 times a day. It drives me mad, right? I know it costs a lot, but I don't know how much. This guy worked out exactly to the hour how much that tumble dryer is costing me. And then he took it a step further and said, if you had the solar panels, this tumble dryer effectively would be free. That was my pain point. Right there, I was like, so in my mind, I'm done. Next pain point is, well, how do we pay for this? It's expensive. You can get solar power now on 10 years and not interest free. You can pay over 2 years interest free, but on 10 years you can get it at 6%. So he works out the payments for me, £101 a month, and then shows me how much I'm going to be saving. The saving is greater than the payments on the solar power. This myth that you're going to give some back to the grid, that doesn't exist. But the payment on the saving is greater than the cost of the solar power. Second point, pain point ticked, right? I'm done, I'm in. My auntie, her pain point is she thinks they're ugly on her roof. So it's not going to be the same, but we're both a lead. right? So what he needs to go when he goes round to her, if he finds her, is he needs to talk about solar panels that perhaps a little less obtrusive, that don't sit front and centre on the front. It might be solar tiles but the point I'm making is, it's not the leads, it's the pain points, and it's the needs. Everyone is a lead if you've done your research properly. Not everyone's a lead for a certain product, because everyone's a need, but if you do your research, there's 1,000. They are all, as that in the field, Glengarry, Glen Ross, they are all golden leads. Yeah. It's about each one of them has a separate need, and what you need to do is go in and what is your need? For me, it was the tumble dryer. Second of all, it was how does this payment plan work? Done. Don't care how ugly they are. Didn't care. I actually think they're quite attractive in some respects. But the next person, my auntie, it's what do they look like? Yeah. And it'll be a bit of tumble dryer as well. And likewise, it'll be a bit of payment plan.
If somebody's got one of these old historic houses, they don't want the battery. They might not care about the roof, but they might care about the battery.
They don't want the batteries on the side. Well, how will we put them in a cupboard? So it's going to be about, what's the thing? So it's about the guy walking up to the house and going, this is an 18th century thatched cottage. They're not going to want batteries on the outside of this. So my big thing I'm going to talk to them about is how we build lovely cupboards round the back and we put them in. It's not the leads. It's you haven't found the need of the lead. It's nothing to do with the leads. Yeah. And again, it's not market conditions.
And so that 100 or 500 messages, what you're doing is trying to find a middle road. And the reason why it's so unsuccessful is you're going middle of the road to try and appeal to...
You're lazy. You're a lazy salesperson.
Well,
you don't want to find the real need. You're going, right, what's the general need here? Yeah. The general need for solar power is that everyone recognises electricity bills going up. So the general need is cost. Out of my 1,000, I could comfortably say that 40% are cost. So what they do, because they're lazy, is they go cost and they capture the 40%. But they don't get them all because you never do. They capture the 30%. They go back and they go, look, I've got a 30% close rate. I'm really good. And that's a pretty good stat. What they didn't do was, my auntie, who, they've just downsized, they've got some cash, so payment plan's not a problem. They didn't go, what's the need here? It's ugly solar panels. They didn't change. They didn't adapt. They didn't go in with a toolbox and go, right, I've got 5 needs and I've got 5 solutions. And as they walked up the drive, they went thatched cottage, 18th century, it's going to be battery packs. It's not going to be tumble dryers.
Appearance, yeah.
That's what they do. And what lazy people do, and come back to the cold calling terrorists, I had people who had 4% conversion rates, which in cold calling is phenomenal. Brilliant. What about the 96% that you didn't capture? What are you doing about those?
And in cold email, it's probably less than that. It's probably about 1%.
Yeah.
And the people who do celebrate, the people who are selling cold email, say 3-4% is like... They're like boasting when they get that.
Yeah, and particularly if they're in high value sales, right? Because if you're doing 4%, they're earning a lot of money.
Yeah.
So I've got 4% and I earn however many thousands of pounds a year.
But the reality is, and this is probably an extreme example of that 500, you go, well, hang on a minute, you just made 100 grand from 500 emails, but you lost £500,000.
Yeah, absolutely.
You left £500,000 on the table because you did broad brush vanilla.
You went in with the highest propensity of success. 40% of these people will want cost, so I sell on cost. That's what I do. Cost? No, you've got loads of money in the bank. Oh, you don't want it? Never mind. Cost? Yeah, really, I want to make it work, but cost, I haven't got that 10-year plan. Oh, lovely sale. Aren't I good? And yeah, that person who had loads of money in the bank, it was about the fact that they don't want solar panels on a thatched roof because you can't put them on.
And in one sense, you could get somebody fresh out of school, give them a script, say ring up or send this template email and just go at it. And they'd probably have the same success as somebody.
Well, I do a whole session in my sales training and qualification. Everything, every single aspect of selling and the success of it comes down to qualification. Do they need or have a propensity for what I'm selling? No, they don't. They don't even do that when I'm not even ringing them. They do to some degree, but it's not a big part of their business. It might be worth looking at, but I'm not focusing on that. It's qualifying the lead. It's finding the 1,000 households that fit needing solar panels within my region. Right. What is each one of them going to respond to?
Yeah. So it's like, I don't know, Band E houses on the council tax. You could go there and go, well, hang on a minute. They're a Band E house. They may not want a payment plan.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
just a simple one. Bandy, they're probably not going to think about the payment plan. It's probably going to be about other stuff.
Yeah.
It's just about thinking about what you're doing, understanding the needs, and then
applying the right principle to the need.
Yeah.
Applying the right solution to the need, and working out a methodology that appeals to each sector so that you're not burning anything.
Mm-hmm. Brilliant. Simon, we got to wrap up. It's always good to see you in Plymouth.
I'd like him, Plymouth. It's good.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks for joining us. Do check out Simon on LinkedIn. You'll find him there sharing his stuff about sales tips, qualification, all the stuff that you're really passionate about. So go find Simon and stay tuned for the next episode of the Maverrik podcast.